Fan?
No.
All right. I don't have my microphone.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sully Squad. We got an action-packed show tonight. We got MLB trade deadline, all kinds of stuff going on. Looks like the Texas Rangers are pushing their chips all the way in. So we're still waiting to see what Dombrowski can do. We're going to get into trade deadline. So we're going to get into that with Frank Klose from 97.3 ESPN. We also have Superfan Tony Tornado going to hop on a little bit later, and we'll get into some talks with him. So how you guys doing tonight? I got my usual cast, other than Mr. 6 for 6 Diego. He might be hopping on shortly, but I got my man Sean Kilrain. What's up, Sean? How you doing?
Not much, man. Just showing, kind of disgusted with this Pittsburgh Pirates Philly series, but that's for another day. So let's get it rocking.
You are. Well, I was gonna say you are. I had a great time, but I was out there, bro. So I mean, it was a great time, beautiful ballpark, had an awesome time. Would have been a lot happier if they had won. You know what I'm saying? But it was a good time.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And then I got my man Fuji, who brings all the energy. Mike Fuji, rocking the brand new Kelly Green, Jalen Hurts. John, what's up, Mike? How you doing, bro?
Another somewhat hot day in Philly. How's everybody? Trade deadline this time tomorrow. Eagles unveiling the Kelly Green are back. Miami, Buffalo, they're suiting up. They should just be wearing this all season. Get rid of that midnight green for maybe forever. How's everybody doing? How are you, gentlemen? Let's get this party rocking started. Let's get into some training camp. I'm pumped. 2 weeks to the season. Let's go.
I hear you. I'm glad you brought some energy because I'm still a little hurting from Pittsburgh. But you know what? But I hear you. Let's get it. It was a long day. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's talk about the Philly series and let's see what kind of moves they can make. I'm going to bring on my man Frank Klose coming on right now. Hey Frank, how you doing? Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, Joe, what's up? I'm doing well. How about you guys?
What's up, Frank?
Pretty good, Frank. Hanging in there.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on.
Pretty good. So, you know, this Phillies team, I mean, they're kind of driving us a little crazy. I mean, you know, you take 2 or 3 from Baltimore last week. You know, Baltimore is what, second best team in baseball record-wise. You take 2 or 3, you know, then they go out to Pittsburgh and just like totally lay an egg. You know, what was your perspective on that series? And you know, how about, you know, what do you think Dombrowski could have in the hopper to try to get this team, you know, over this wild card hump?
Well, I will say those 2 Phillies games in Pittsburgh, the last 2 were so difficult to watch. It was sloppy. It was just a cluster. You know what? I had no words after Saturday and Sunday, really. They're better than that. Yeah. You know, when they were playing poorly Saturday, and here was a sad thing about it, that even as they were flopping along on Saturday, I said to my friend watching with me, I was like, you know, this is still a winnable game for them, and this is a game that they can still win. Even on Sunday, as bad as they were, that was a game they easily could have won. And so I think that speaks to a lot of the holes that the Phillies have in their roster and also to the league, because if you look up and down the wild card contenders, they're all having games like that, like those. Yeah. They all have their days. They all have their moments, but the flaws catch up to them. So I see them as still very much in it, but man, that was really awful to watch.
Yeah, you know what really drove me crazy too, because Saturday was the game I was at. I was out there, and you know, as soon as they got that 4-1 lead, you know, I mean, how many times is Aaron Nola going to be spotted a multiple run lead? And maybe it's just me, but I feel like he has a real propensity to just immediately give it up.
Yeah, Aaron Nola's been. I don't know what to call him. He fails to execute when they need him to execute. Now, it
Yeah.
was easy to get on. It was easy to get on the defense. Yeah, you know what? Bryce Harper playing an admirable first base. You don't really get to practice balls hit that hard to your right. When you're those infield drills, right? So that was new to him, and stuff like that's going to happen. But still, you need Aaron Nola to come in and execute after the fact. So yeah, there were errors, but at the same time, Aaron Nola has to be better there. If you're not able to overcome that type of thing, and you know what? Yeah, I get it. That those are outs you're giving away, and it probably cuts on to the end of the game, that because he's got to get some more outs. But he should have stepped up and taken care of that. I did not see from the Phillies team the sense of urgency. It was almost like they won the first game and they figured, all right, we'll get one of the other two, and then we'll have won the series. Be fine. I just want to see a better sense of urgency from the Phillies there, and also someone wake Nick Castellanos up. He was swinging at every single pitch. I think I tweeted in the middle of one of the two games, like, tell Castellanos he doesn't have to swing at every pitch.
Well,
And they're $90 million worth of right-handed. Maybe it's like 80. But anyway, a lot of money in their right-handed bats. And when you consider JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, and Trey Turner, man, they all have to play better. So this is really kind of underscoring what seems to be the Phillies' approach to the trade deadline, which is they're going to get a right-handed bat and probably another starting pitching arm, just because they have zero depth beyond what they have right now. Even as heroic as Christopher Sanchez has been, they need, if one of them gets hurt, even if they break a fingernail and are out for 2 weeks, well, guess what? They've got nothing.
Frank, as far as your inside sources, I mean, who you hearing, as far as right bat is concerned, and, are they going for a starter? Are they going for a middle reliever? What's your take?
I think they're going for a starter. For that reason, they don't have the depth. I mean, Christopher Sanchez has been amazing, all things considered. Not that you would call him an amazing starter in the scope of all starters, but for a guy that came up and is taking the ball every fifth day, like, he's doing way more than you could possibly ask. I mean, I know we could go on about whether or not he should have exited that Sunday game after pitching a no-hitter for 5 innings, but he's been exactly what you need your fifth starter to be, and then some. So, however, they've got nobody else. I mean, they sort of rushed Ranger Suarez back beyond the timetable he was going to have to sort of recover. And so, yeah, he's still kind of getting on track. In a way, I don't really fault Suarez for that, because he was hurt. He doesn't have all his stuff yet. And then, so I think that's the indication why the Phillies are out looking for a starting pitcher. And also the right-handed bat. There's a couple of reports out there that some names that they've been linked to so far. Tommy Pham of the New York Mets. Now the Mets just traded Mark Canha, the other right-handed outfield bat that they have. That just came down with the Brewers, and so you figure they'll trade Pham as well. Will they trade with the Phillies? I don't know. But the other name that a lot of people like is Adam Duvall. I know my podcast partner Jeff Mosher was really interested in Adam Duvall, and the Phillies were said to be scouting Duvall in Boston last couple days. So they're probably looking for that right-handed bat. They recognize kind of the hole in the lineup that really Rhys Hoskins left. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is when you lose somebody like that with that much impact at the very end of spring training, you don't really have an opportunity to replace that. And whether they threw Derek Caldero, who unfortunately didn't really seem to latch on, or if you put Bohm there, well, then you have to start a backup player at third base, or you're starting, even under these new configurations, you're starting a backup in left field. They gotta do something for a right-handed bat. I would love one that could also play some first base as well. Adam Duvall was somebody who used to play some first base. It's been a while, but I think in a situation like this, you see Harper is not playing first base again today for the second time. I don't know if they want to give him more time to ease into it or what the deal is. I'm sure someone will ask Rob Thompson what's going on behind that. Uh, but you're saying you're going to need whatever bat comes in to be able to bounce back and forth. So that would be a name there. I mean, I really liked the idea of Cody Bellinger, but looks like the Cubs are not going to sell.
Yeah,
But
my guy.
if you want to try to get some of that, get your left fielder to also place him first, I think Duvall could do that. So he's somebody that seems to make a lot of sense. And another name that they were sort of linked to is Eduardo Rodriguez of the Tigers. Now he can opt out of his last 3 years and $49 million after this year. You know, if the Phillies make a trade for someone like that, they might try to get him to agree to not opt out, or you probably have to make that happen. You have to maybe add another year and a bunch of money or something like that to make it happen. But I'd be open-minded for something like that. You know, the thing about Dave Dombrowski is he doesn't really spend a lot of money on, or in terms of prospect capital or even cash on rentals. He likes controllable players beyond this year. And I think with perhaps Aaron Nola leaving at the end of the year for free agency, it would be nice to get a controllable starter because you could run out of starting pitching really quickly if Nola departs. So I like the idea of Rodriguez with the caveat that you can get him to agree to stay beyond this year. You might, and again, you probably have to pay him some money, but and the other thing I'll add too is Dave Dombrowski is really good at keeping stuff close to the vest. We don't hear a lot leaking out of who he's talking to. I mean, it has to be a situation where, like Pete Abraham of the Boston Globe noticed the Philly scouts there to see Adam Duvall. I mean, that's the way you kind of track these things. But the thing about Dombrowski is he always seems to get the players you don't necessarily expect. And he tends to get a lot of players that are also not just rentals. Now, the outfielder, I think, could be a rental because, you know, who knows what's going to happen. You have to decide still what position Bryce Harper's going to play long term. I still think there's a chance he could end up at first base next year. But then they have to reassess the whole situation. Or if he goes back to the outfield, you know, they have to figure out the infield then. So I think that's a longer term decision they need to make. But in terms of acquiring a pitcher, I think they would prefer to have somebody with control beyond this year because they're going to be losing Nola, it looks like.
Frank, do you know what prospects they're offering, possibly Rojas or any of these other guys in the minor league system right now?
You know, a lot of these trades that are going down really aren't the top prospects in the system. Now, I will say the Guardians just got I think he was a number 37 prospect in baseball, power hitting first baseman. To trade one of their trove of starting pitchers. That was the first like pretty big prospect you saw moved, but a lot of these trades, like the one the Angels made, the Angels had one of the worst ranked farm systems, and they got Randall Grichuk and CJ Crone together in the deal. And now before they traded for Lucas Giolito, they had they were ranked like 28th in terms of farm systems, and they managed to, even after that trade, were able to still get Grichuk and Crone. So I feel like a lot of the prospects going are lower end, and you look at the Phillies' top 10 prospects. I think they're going to try to hold on to every pitcher that they have, just because they're part of this rebuild on the fly, as I usually call it, because after the failed rebuild under the Klentak McPhail era, Dombrowski is just trying to throw a lot of money at his problems and win now, while also building a farm system. And the area that you really build it with is the pitching. So I could see them trading perhaps Rojas, as you mentioned. There's another nice outfielder at AAA, Simone Muzziotti, who I think if they end up keeping him, he might end up replacing Jake Cave at some point as sort of the left-handed outfielder because he seems almost ready to come up, but he could help somebody else. They have Carlos De La Cruz, who could play first base or a corner outfield position, who's in the top 10 prospects. I think those will be the types of players they're looking to trade. Rafael Marchand might interest somebody. You remember him? He's still a pretty decent catching prospect. I think they'll shy away from the pitchers unless they're further down on their chart. I don't see them trading Justin Crawford just yet. I think as a prospect. Yeah, they're kind of covered in center field at the moment, but I think his prospect, if they're going to trade him, his value will be better later as he kind of moves through the system. So I don't think that they want to trade him yet. So I'm looking at bats that aren't Justin Crawford at this point. But if you go down the Phillies' top 30 prospects, they've got some people that might interest other teams as you get into the teens. Even I mean,
Right.
Andrew Baker, who was kind of underwhelming this year. After I thought he might make the Phillies this year, but the Ethan Wilsons. I mean, these are some of the lesser known names, but they're lower down on their top 30 list. I could see them moving. You see a lot of the Class A prospects go for some of the marginal type players that come in a trade. So one reason being that they've got some, for example, they've got some at the lower levels, William Bergola, Marion Boyd. These are Class A prospects, 18, 19 years old. Sometimes you take them back in a trade as like a flyer for later. Because you're trying to save room on your 40-man roster for other prospects you're getting. So I think there's some trades to be made. The Phillies do have enough. They're not going to trade Andrew Painter, even though he's going to be hurt for a while. Not going to trade Mick Abel. Not going to trade Griff McGarry. But I can see them maybe beyond that they would look to make some moves. I would say I wouldn't I will add one caveat. If they're going to trade McGarry or an Abel, I don't know if they would permanently rule it out, but it had better be for a controllable pitcher that's very good.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned McGarry and Abel. I mean, is there any possibility that any of the, say there's an injury or anything, like they would possibly give one of those kids a shot for like a spot start here or there?
So McGarry, I would expect that he gets promoted to AAA soon.
Okay.
Sometimes after the trade deadline, when you make your trades and things sort of reset in the system, and being the time of year too, right? You're getting into August, and September is only a month away. So I could see somebody like McGarry moving up to AAA, somebody that they might call upon at some point. I mean, he is 24 years old,
right.
So which is still young in baseball years, but not so young. Abel probably needs some more seasoning. I would think too that he could find himself in AAA at some point this year. But of the two, I could see McGarry more likely to make an appearance. But then remember too, one thing about baseball the last couple of years is that once the trade deadline hits, there's only one. There's no waiver deals. There's no the 2008 Phillies added Matt Stairs and Scott Air in the month of August. After the trade deadline had ended. So you can't do moves like that anymore. And we saw that a couple of years ago. What was it? Reese Hoskins went down for a little bit a couple of years ago, and there's really no way to replace him. So they need players like that to be able to step in if they need to. And so I think that McGarry is somebody that could be stashed at AAA and ready to help in case they have a disaster.
Frank, why did they do away with the waiver in September?
Some people felt it was too easy for some teams to just load up and go the last little stretch of the season, which is, just a month. I think they probably be better off compromising. Maybe as much as I like the rush of the trade deadline right before training camp, they might stand to maybe make it August 15th. As sort of like an in between. Just have one trade deadline, but have it later. Because, right now, you're seeing how many teams that are kind of in it, right? How many, if you're around the 500 mark, you are in it. I mean, even now, the Padres, a couple games under 500, they're seen as in it by some. Chicago Cubs just won a bunch of games in a row and got over the 500 mark. Well, now they're in it. Well, they're not making trades.
Right.
So golf for it.
Yeah. So, but usually by the end of August, some of them would fall off and others would step up. But they're probably less available when you have that many teams in it right now. So I think maybe this will naturally work out to some compromise where you move it back a couple of weeks. Maybe August 15th is the day to do it, and then that helps. But yeah, I did get the idea that a lot of what happened was. You got to August, and some teams that had the financial wherewithal would just assume expensive contracts and load up. whereas the other teams that could not assume those contracts were just put at an extra disadvantage. So I think that's why that went away.
Where could you see Justin Verlander? I know Sean, before we came on, was mentioning that, he's probably on his way out of New York, obviously.
It seems like that could go either way. I think that if the Mets were smart, they would trade him. If you look at the numbers, the way that they were over that luxury tax, like you're not just even though they were paying like a ridiculous amount of money for Max Scherzer's contract, they're saving so much money because all that on top of that they don't have to pay in the luxury tax is helpful to the Mets. So I don't think that all of a sudden that. First of all, I will say I thought they were playing with fire, having this really old rotation with adding three senior citizens in baseball age to be in their starting rotation, and this is not a surprise to me, and I think that Verlander they'd be silly not to trade him if they have the opportunity. Now, again, the acquiring teams, they're going to be wary of these vesting options that they have. Wouldn't it be something if Verlander goes right back to Houston after leaving as a free agent?
Yeah.
But that's a rumored location. The Dodgers are a rumored location. I think if the Mets were smart, they would get themselves out from under Justin Verlander because, when you see all this gray in my beard, right? They're like my age, so they probably should not. They should quit while they're ahead and get out. So Mets desperately need this infusion of prospects. Since it didn't work out, they really got to. I know Billy Epler said this was not a fire sale. This was not a rebuild, but man, the Mets need some talent in that system, and they could come out looking a lot better in a couple of years. And by the way, one thing I will add about this, because I did tweet this the other day. If the Mets get rid of Verlander too, they've become the prime landing spot for Aaron Nola this offseason because they're going to need pitching. They're going to spend money.
Yeah, they got the money, man. It's scary.
And the one thing about Nola too, he's the every other year guy. So he was great last year. The first year with New York, he'd probably be, next year he wouldn't be giving up 24 home runs. It would drive us crazy. He'd come to Philly and shut us down.
He probably would. He probably would. But honestly, if I'm the Phillies, I don't re-sign Aaron Nola. So
I agree with you,
Frank. Just throw this out there, just for argument's sake. We've got less than 24 hours exit the deadline. We know it probably ain't going to happen. What could the Phillies get for Aaron Nola, in your opinion?
I haven't thought of that because he's not going anywhere.
I know, but you're not going to get nothing for him if he walks. So why not entertain it?
Well, because you don't want to ruin this team you have. I think that's the big thing. Well, he's struggling. Why wouldn't you trade him? Well, because there are 26 people in that locker room, and to them, a trade of Aaron Nola would just blow up everything that they have going. Right. I know they have holes, but I think that would just totally disrupt the entire team. Yeah. So those are types of trades that you make in an off season. So could they might have to do some reconstructive surgery, or make decisions, about do they try Reese Hoskins again? I tend to think no, but those are all season decisions, where you have time to really take a step back, reassemble the club, and for the players too to get used to who they're going to battle with the next year. So I think that does mean a lot to players, and you don't want to drop a bomb in the middle of the locker room and make such a mess. I was even listening to who was it? Ryan Spielberg, who former major league outfielder. You might remember him with a few different teams, but he was talking about as a player when he was in a locker room where people were being traded, like the morale, like it's all kinds of emotions. It's the ones that stay well, why wasn't it me? Or oh wow, that person got to go and join the better team and try to win, and am I next? Am I not next? Well, why not me? So it just creates such a mess in that locker room that I would not recommend it.
Well, Friday, excuse me to interrupt you. Friday, I know they said Scherzer went into front office after they traded Robertson to the Marlins. Like, I don't think he was too happy about it. I mean, I know the Mets are 6.5 back, but in that log jam in the National League wild card right now.
Yeah, I mean, Robertson admirably jumped in as the closer when they lost Edwin Diaz. So if you're the starter, you know that there's not going to be someone closing the games for you. That's a very unsettling feeling.
Right. Yeah. Well, just one last question. Not to put you on the spot, but who if you had to make a prediction, who do you think the Phillies get? Do you think an Adam Duvall is coming here, or or a Tommy Pham? I mean, who would you think they would get? Is there anybody in particular or no?
My best guesses are Adam Duvall and Eduardo Rodriguez. And I say that because Dave Dombrowski knows Eduardo Rodriguez well from their time together in Boston. So I think he would feel comfortable bringing him in. And I think that he's somebody that he would want to stick around this Phillies team as well into the future. And Duvall, I think he's perfect in that he's the right-handed bat. If you could use him at first base, even though it's been several years, I'm sure that he could handle it. And he knows the NL East, and he's also a free agent to be, so they don't have to worry about trying to figure out what to do just yet. So those two are the ones I have my money on. I sort of have come around to think that Duvall is a really good option.
Okay,
even though I didn't last time I recorded my podcast with Jeff Mosher. I kind of like Randall Grichuk, but I think you've got a good match there.
What about Tescaro Hernandez?
Pardon me?
What about Tescaro Hernandez from the Blue Jays?
Oh, Tascar, yeah. Tascar Hernandez. I think he's a possibility. I think you're seeing, that the Mariners are going to be sellers. They just traded their closer. So I think that's a good indication that they're going to make other moves. In fact, I heard Jerry DiPoto, president of baseball operations for the Mariners, or GM, I forget what title he has. But anyway, he's the guy that makes the decisions. I heard him on MLB Network radio the other day. He was asked directly by former GM Jim Bowden, like, hey, is Teoscar Hernandez going to be there on Tuesday night? And he basically said, well, I don't know. He did. A very honest answer from a GM. Basically, so he is on the block. And very interestingly, when the Hernandez trade happened and the Mariners got him from the Blue Jays, I forget who wrote this piece. I got to find it, but they basically said, hey, look, the Phillies aren't going to trade Rhys Hoskins because, hey, look how closely Hernandez and Hoskins profile to one another. And it was only two mid-range relievers that made the deal. So they basically be replacing the Rhys Hoskins bat with him for somebody who could play the outfield. But he does have a lot of holes in his game. He will strike out a lot. He will hit a home run, but also the other end. So I don't know if the Phillies want too much more of that. So I don't know if I like the fit as much, but if that's who you can get, that's who you can get. That's at least sort of getting another bat that profiles like Rhys Hoskins.
Frank, as far as Tommy Pham, can he play infield and outfield?
I think he's been exclusively an outfielder for some time. I don't think they would use him as an infielder. I was looking. It's been a while, but I was looking that up. I know I think of him in the early days as being an infielder with the Cardinals.
Second baseman.
Yeah, but I don't think he really stuck there. In fact, I'm pulling it up right now. He actually no, he's never played second base in the major leagues. Yeah, it feels that way.
Well, if he played second base for the Phillies, he'd jump right in because our defense has been kind of atrocious. So, yeah, why not,
Well, yeah, Bryson Stott is pretty good.
No, I know. I know. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Bryson Stott. God, I mean, who to think that kid might be our best? That kid's probably been our most consistent player this year.
Yeah,
and it's not really it's not a surprise to me because from the moment they drafted him, this is what he was: someone who makes contact and has a good eye and has a really good pitch selection. So I'm not shocked that he's becoming this. So I know they kind of asked a lot of him out of the gate last year, like, hey, come up here, join a pennant chase, take over for Didi Gregorius, who was a respected veteran, even though he wasn't playing that well. That's still kind of a tall ask, and I thought he performed admirably there. I thought that throwing him at third base on opening day was not the best idea last year, but I think he's in the right position now. He profile, ever since he was drafted, that was something I've constantly said on the radio. He's always been profiled to be a second baseman first, but his bat's coming to be what it is. In fact, when the Phillies have runners on, I'd rather Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, and Bryce Harper be the ones coming up because they're the ones that are making the contact. Totally agree. Well, hey, listen, Frank. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been been great talking baseball with you. I know I always hear you on 97.3. Any other spots people can see you? Yeah, please follow my podcast anywhere that you find podcasts. You can find it. It's called Powder Blue. And the Powder Blue podcast, of course, we love jersey colors, right? Like the the retro jersey colors. A lot of talk about that lately for some reason, huh? But yeah, Powder Blue podcast, anywhere that you can get it, you can find that account on X. I should change what my thing says because it's not Twitter anymore.
Yeah, I can't believe they changed it.
At Powder Blue Pod, you can find the podcast, and we should be recording something after the trade deadline as soon as Jeff and I can get together, Jeff Mosher and I. So I'd love it if you checked it all out. All right. Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Frank. Appreciate it.
Frank.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Sounds good. Thank you, guys. See you, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
So yeah, that was fun, and so now we got our man Tony Tornado, who I saw. I know we've been talking regular Phillies, but I saw this guy on his social media. Hey, throwing out the first, throwing out the first pitch at Reading the other night. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing good. Champ? First of all, I am so happy to be on here right now. It's instead of 24 hours ago because I was dropping so many F-bombs during that game last night. It wasn't funny.
You got to be dying in that outfit.
Nah. I'm good to go.
You got to be hot as hell in that outfit.
I'll tell you, Mike, I think I lost about 30 pounds at that game the other night. I don't know if you saw my pictures with the wrestler, The Godfather.
Yeah. The Godfather.
The Godfather. I showed him a picture from 20 years ago when I dressed as him for Halloween.
You were talking about on my show the other
weeks ago. So when I heard he was going to be there, I'm like, I got to go there. Now, I found something very disturbing out the other night. And Mike, you're going to call me a liar, but you're not going to like hearing this. I think wrestling is scripted.
You think?
No way.
I don't want to believe it.
Really?
Oh, God.
It's like when they used to cut their heads open with razor blades. It was ketchup.
When I got there the other night, I got there when the gates opened so I could get in for the VIP with the Godfather. So I get there and and I'm walking around in this and I'm boiling, but I'm having a blast. And these two guys come up to me for a photo. They're both young and pretty big guys. And I'm like, yeah, let's do a photo. So we do a photo. Hey, one guy's name is Mike. One guy, his name was I'm forgetting his name. Damien, Mike and Damien. So I'm telling, hey guys, how you doing? We do a photo together. So a little bit later, game starts, and I do want to talk about McGarry because he started that night, and I was watching him, and I was impressed. So game starts. Well, around the fifth inning, rain delay. So we have about an hour plus rain delay. Well, because they had the tarp on the field and a tarp on the ring, which was in that concourse area at Reading. They were able to get the tarp off the ring faster. So they said, you know what, let's just throw two matches together real quick. So at least people have something to do while they're waiting for the game to start. So I see one guy coming out and he's dressed in pinstripes and his name was, you'll love it, Mike, the Goomba. Nice. And the Goomba's coming out with a bat and he's threatening to smack the fans. And I'm like, this guy's awesome. And he's my favorite. Then this other guy comes out as a Puerto Rican Randy Savage. And oh my God, and they're coming out there, and I'm like, these guys are great. And I'm watching it a little bit later, and of course I'm rooting for the bad guy because that's kind of what I do. And then it's over. Okay, they get out of the ring, and they're they got interfered with the bat and got disqualified. And the next day, I see a picture posted on social media. I'm like, wait a minute. Those are the two guys that got their picture with me earlier. Wait a minute, they're friends. I can't believe this. I feel button hooked. But no, that was a lot of fun. And I'll tell you, the other night, so I go there, and like I said, I get there when the doors open at 5 o'clock. Go in there, meet the Godfather, and he's going to throw out the first pitch, the official first pitch. And they had a couple booths set up, and the one guy there runs a booth called Carl's Cards. His name's Carl Henderson. And he goes to me, he goes, "You throwing out the first pitch?" I said, "Yeah, 3 weeks in Lehigh." He goes, "No, tonight." "Not that I know of." He goes, "Well, we kind of need you to." He goes, "We need someone to throw it out on behalf because we're sponsoring someone and we don't have anybody to do it." So the other week I was joking that I'm like, "I've never thrown a baseball wearing all this." I said, "I'm gonna have to practice at a local baseball field wearing all this and throwing it."
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have any practice time, but I went out there. I was a little high and outside, but it crossed the plate, and that's all I wanted to do.
A lot of people I know down CBP, some people can't even make it over the plate.
Oh, I mean, I know I wasn't, on the mound. I was about 10
Right.
feet in front of it, but I mean, like I said, I was high and outside, which is better than in the dirt.
Right.
At least you didn't throw like 50 cents.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, he was the second worst I've ever seen. Danny DeVito was the worst.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I gotta look at that.
I hate to even say this.
I tried to find that on YouTube, and I can't find it. He threw it out at CBP because he was doing It's Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And that ball went about 10 feet out and about 6 feet over, right into the ground. It went no more than 10 feet.
You know what's funny though, Danny DeVito, I expect him to suck. But 50 Cent, I'm like, yo, my man, come on, dog. I mean,
You're
like
like
for
an
real,
athlete.
50 Cent looks like he could throw a baseball. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Not
Brian.
that day.
Well, Brian Dawkins, I don't even think Brian Dawkins hit the plate when he threw out the first pitch.
I'll tell you, one of the
Yeah.
best first pitch stories I remember from last year. I was going to a Sunday game, and I go in the entrance where Mike would know exactly where this is, right where McFadden's used to be.
I know. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a table set up, and Tommy Green was sitting there, and it was the day Ray Didinger was going to throw out the pitch. And they had the guy that I guess walks them out and instructs them what to do.
Mhm.
So we're sitting down talking to Tommy Green and everybody else running the show, and Ray Diddy's there. And this guy, and I apologize for forgetting his name, but he says, what I always tell people is aim high, because if you sail it, it's better than dirt bowling it.
Right.
You sail it, you'll get an ooh. If you dirt it, you'll get a boo, especially in Philadelphia. So he says, back in April, right after we acquired A.J. Brown, he goes, I'm instructing A.J. what to do and how to throw it. And he goes, A.J. looks at me comically. He goes, he walks out there and he throws a strike right down the middle of the plate. And he turns to me and goes, I was drafted by the Padres.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Because earlier in the year, him and Jalen Hurts, when they were taking
Taking
BP,
BP.
he was putting some out over the left field fence.
Well,
A.J. Brown.
I didn't get to go to it this year because I had a game that day, but I went last year to the Devontae Smith charity softball game up at Lehigh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a softball game. They have that short outfield, like they put that little makeshift fence out there.
Yeah.
But they were doing a home run derby, and the 5 that made it, 4 made it to the finals, and the 1 just missed the final. Micah Parsons took second. He was playing last year, and he was jacking him pretty good. A.J. Brown won it, which obviously he was putting him actually in the seats, not just over the little makeshift fence. Dallas Goedert was putting him in the seats as well, and I heard he won it this year. Devontae Smith kind of surprised me. They said for a thin guy, he was raking him.
Right.
And the one that really surprised me was Boston Scott. Boston Scott just missed
like
the
a
final
little fire
4.
plug, but he's jacked.
Well, you know what? It's that short swing, man. He's got that upper body. So if you got that technique, you're boom. It's like that boom when you boom, boom, boom. He's slapping them.
And I tell you, I hate to say it, the worst one last year was Brandon Graham. I don't even think Brandon made contact.
He probably was trying. I can see him being a guy trying to kill the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So instead of going up there cool and collective, I'm smashing. I'm gonna break it. But
yeah, I don't even think he made contact last year.
So. Yeah, that's right. Now he needs Tom Brady to make contact.
I know. You guys are like this. There's a good Brandon Graham story for you. Last year, I go to Clearwater every year, and I'm getting ready to go, despite the fact there was the lockout last year.
Right.
I take credit for the lockout ending because the day that I shortened my trip by 2 days, their lockout ended. So I said, "Yep, you can all thank me." So I'm going down there, and my friend, and I don't know if you ever seen this place online, Collegeville Bakery.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's only 15 minutes from me.
Okay.
So there'll be days the owner will call me and he'll be like, "Yo," he's like, "Can you make an appearance today?" And I'm 15 minutes away from there, and I work at home. I'm on my work laptop right now. I'll suit up while I'm working and jump right over there. Like last year, headed into the playoffs, we did that. And he's like, "Yo, I got Fox Good Day coming in tomorrow 8 o'clock." I called work and said I'm logging in an hour early, and I'm going to leave for an hour to go do this quick appearance. So last year, the owner, Steve, he's like, "Yo, I got a surprise for you coming up next week." And I'm thinking, well, the Phillies are supposed to be in spring training. I know they're on a lockout, but they're supposed to all be down there. So it can't be Phillies related. And I'm trying to figure out what it is, but he won't tell me. And he's had guys like Ric Flair there, Joel Embiid. He's had some big name guys there. And I'm like, and I'm like, Brandon Graham does have his own pizza there. I'm like, oh, I bet it's Brandon Graham, but he won't tell me. And they were doing a signing in King of Prussia 15 minutes away.
Okay.
Won't tell me. So I said, then he goes, "Yo, listen, it got postponed a week." I said, "Well, I'm going to be in Clearwater." He goes, "Oh, you're going to miss it." I said, "Can you tell me what I'm going to miss?" He's like, "No." I said, I'm going to take a gamble that it's going to be Brandon Graham. So I'm going to go to Brandon's signing with the box that his pizza comes in, and I'm going to cut the top of the box out that has a sticker on it. So I go into a signing with the top of a box holding it like this, and I said, "Bet you nobody brought you a pizza box to sign." He goes, "Yo, I'm going to be there next week." I'm like, "God, I know it was you." And well, so as I go to Florida, it snows that day. I just beat the snow. So they postponed them another week. I go in to get some pastries and some dinner rolls. They're like, "Yo, can you be back in 2 hours?" I said, "Should I wear my Eagles jersey?" They said, "Yeah." So when I met Brandon a couple weeks prior, take a picture with him, I texted to my mom. Now, my mom is this little Mike Metter, little Italian woman, never raises her voice except to me. And during Super Bowl 52, with 2 minutes to go, 2nd and 2 from the 34-yard line, she goes like this, "Sack Brady."
Yeah.
And the next play was the sack fumble. So I tell him that. Yeah, I tell him that. So a few weeks later, he's in Collegeville. I go back. I'm going back. I'm like, "Yo, Ma, you got to go with me." So we walk in there. He gets up from his table and he grabs her and he goes, "Oh, I heard you wanted me to get Brady." Well, I got him.
That's
Just for you.
awesome.
Yeah. So we got to have lunch with him.
That's awesome, man.
In fact, the other night I was watching the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence fight, and I was sitting down with the Brandon Graham Sack 55 Detroit pizza as one of my entrees.
Nice.
That's what. Hey, speaking of that fight, how fire was that when he came out? Like Eminem brought him out. I thought that was so fire.
I was wow. I did not expect that. I'll tell you, I thought it was going to be a much closer fight. I mean, I followed both fighters, and I have a little bit of a personal touch with each one, not from meeting them, but when Errol was coming up, a guy that's a very good friend of mine was refereeing one of his fights.
Oh, okay.
So we had met up at a boxing show a year later, and I said, "Yo, you were refereeing that fight." He goes, "Man," he goes, "that kid is the truth for a reason."
Okay.
And then Terrence Crawford, one of his title defenses about 6-7 years ago, was a guy from my gym, a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And Hank Lundy out of South Philly, and Terrence stopped him in 5 rounds. So I kind of got, up close perspectives on both guys. I thought it was going to be a closer fight, but I did have Crawford winning. My concern with Crawford winning was if he's a slow starter sometimes, if he gave up about the first 3 or 4 rounds, similar to what Marvin Hagler did that time against Sugar Ray. Gave up the first 4 rounds, and then he couldn't whether you thought he caught up or not, he dug himself in too deep of a hole. And I was worried that Terrence might do that. And the first round, I gave to Spence, and then Crawford picked it up in the second round. He picked it up early.
Those jabs, man, holy shit.
They reminded me of Sonny Liston. That's what I kept saying, because Sonny Liston would hurt you with his jab. He wouldn't it wasn't like that whipping motion. It was that thudding motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and especially you yourself as a former boxer. I mean, it must have, watching a fight like that, has to feel pretty good, because I know, I mean, now the UFC has become so big. A lot of boxing's kind of been left in the, I don't want to say in the background, but so many more people seem to be more in the UFC nowadays.
Yeah, and I know, like, I never really got into that. A lot of my friends are like, "Oh my God, they'll be getting the pay-per-view," and they'll call me up, and I'm like, I might go over for a beer, but most of the time I don't even go over, because I feel like I'm, ruining the evening for them because I'm end up not watching it or goofing off or talking something else. Um, but for people that the boxing doesn't get the mainstream like that it did. But if you go to a local fight card, there's one coming up at the Philly Live Casino in September.
Okay.
I might go as a birthday gift from me to me. That place gets packed up pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
I went to one it will be coming up in 2 years in November. Another kid from my gym named Sonny Conto is a heavyweight, undefeated. I think he's like 13-0 and 14-0
Yeah,
now.
he is. Yes.
But he was sparring with Tyson Fury a couple years ago. And I happened to be on the opposite side of the ring of Sonny's friend Dallas Goddard.
Okay.
Dallas and Avante were there on the one side, and I was on the other side. So when
that's a friend of mine's nephew, Ricardo Migler-Reese is Conti is his nephew. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's special.
He's actually funny you say that. He trained out of the gym that I used to train out of, down at 17th and Fitzwater, Marion Anderson.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that helped train him when he was first starting is a guy, his name's Hassan Williams. They used to call him Candyman. Hassan Williams, Candyman, and I sparred probably at least 100 rounds together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ricardo Migler-Reese, he used to do boxing, as a matter of fact. I think his father was a boxer, too. I got to ask him. But he's a top jiu-jitsu trainer in Philly. Trainer.
So, I mean, I'll hit the Philly Live if I can. They've done shows at the parks. The only disadvantage of those two establishments is you have to be 21 to get in. And now it's like, if you figure being a teenager, I was a huge fan as a teenager. I couldn't go to those cards.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I was 15, my dad took me to a card when I was maybe 4 years old, and I slept through it, Yeah. But so I count the first one I went to when I was 15.
Right.
And it was 1992 down at Trump Plaza. No, Trump Taj Mahal it was.
Okay.
And it was Michael Moore and Burt Cooper, fight of the year.
Wow.
And it was so, like, the lights were so bright and it was so exciting. And it was fight of the year. Both guys were down 2 times and it was just a slugfest, right? And I was obviously hooked. And then years later, about 8 years later, I'm at my gym, Marion Anderson, and who's in there training that day? Burt Cooper. And I'm like, I went from watching him in the main event of my first card to training next to him.
That's awesome.
Also
Didn't they recently? Go.
I said also on that card was in his 6th professional fight, a young Arturo Gatti.
Wow.
Wow, that's real interesting. Wow,
Yeah.
Jeez, wow.
And
Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward's fight was on my wedding night.
Oh, really?
Great, yeah.
Was that the first one?
No, the third one.
The third one. Okay.
Yeah.
June 7th, 2003.
Yeah.
Well, then Gotti ended up training. Who was that Irish fighter? They fought like 3 times.
And Mickey Ward. Mickey Ward trained Gotti.
That's it. I know it was one of them.
Yeah.
It's like Rocky and Apollo. Rocky.
Now let me tell you something. There's 2 warriors right there, man.
Yeah.
Going at it.
You know what I'll send you guys? When Gotti retired in 2007, I was going to an Italian festival that night, and we left early to see his last fight, and that's when he lost to Alfonso Gomez. Got beat up really bad. That was the one Mickey Ward trained him. And then he retired that night, and I wrote, because I was writing a lot for Fight News Unlimited at the time. So I wrote a tribute article. 2 years later, I'm going to the same Italian festival when I get a phone call. Yo, they just found Gotti dead in Brazil. And I went home, and we all went out that night, and we all, raised a drink and did a shot. And I went home, and I'm like, I got to figure out a way to say something. I'm a journalism major. I got to figure out a way to put it in words. And somebody goes, you wrote a great article 2 years ago. Just rewrite the foreword and re-release it. And that's what I did. So I'll send it to you guys. Because every year on the anniversary of his passing, I share it on my Facebook page.
Okay. Wow.
And
Tony,
I talk about.
Don't you still do your boxing podcast?
Yeah, every Thursday nights.
What's the name of it?
Fight News Unlimited.
Okay.
Or it's Fight. Yeah, it's where the website's Fight News Unlimited, or they call it Fight Talk. I mean, he's going through so many platforms.
Right.
So, but it's, hey, for me, it's fun. You know, it just gives me a chance to, you know, we've talked to I mean, for me, like talking to guys, for my favorite was Vinny Pazienza. And when we got him on as a guest, yeah, you guys can't see it. Mike knows about it, but that's who I named my dog after 21 years ago when I got him.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I met Vinny a couple years later, I told him that. And I said, the reason I named the dog, I was getting this little puppy this big. And I saw a picture of me, has a little tail in the air. And I said, they look like a bunch of little devils. Tasmanian devil. Name him Vinny.
Yeah.
And when my dog did pass away, Vinny sent me a personal condolence message.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
You know, that really is.
So last time I saw him was a couple years ago. He was we were out in Vegas, and they were doing a fight fan convention. It was the weekend of Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs. Took my dad out there for that. So I go to this convention. Vinny comes in. Vinny loves my dad. He met him a couple times. Loves my dad. So he sees me, runs over to me to say hi, and then yells at me because my dad didn't come to the convention with me. I said, Vinny, he's going to the fights tonight. He wants to relax in the hotel a little bit. He's like, you know, he's probably on the craps table right now. But he's telling me he's relaxing. He's relaxing at the hotel room. He's probably, you know, trying to roll some sevens. Yeah.
Just as far as like the little boxing nostalgia. I mean, they closed the Blue Horizon, correct?
Yeah.
Didn't they recently have some fights down where ECW used to be?
Oh yeah, the 2300 arena now.
Yeah, don't they have boxing down there?
Yeah, I've gone to, and what's great is after the fights are over, you can walk right to Tony Luke's.
Right, right in that vicinity.
You know, sometimes you'll go there and you'll see guys that have just fought, especially if they're out of towners, running down to get a cheesesteak after they fought.
Yeah, how about that?
So when you were on my show a couple of weeks ago, we sort of got it. Well, we did get into talk about, you know, when you went to the Rocky Marciano's statue on unveiling.
Yeah.
Can you get into that history about that a little bit?
It was ironic the way, like I said, everything works out for a reason. And Rocky Marciano was big to my father's father and uncle. Like they were big into Rocky Marciano to the point where my dad's uncle went to the fight when he beat Jersey Joe for the heavyweight title in Philadelphia.
Wow.
So years later, my grandfather and my uncle both passed away when I was about 7. So I only have vague memories of them. One of them is I confused Rocky Marciano with Rocky Balboa, and one of them smacked me in the head because you watch too much movie BS. So, my great uncle had the original program and ticket and newspaper articles of a couple of Rockies. You know, he had the original program and ticket from the Walcott fight and a couple newspaper articles from some of his defenses. And his oldest son had him, and he was having some health issues back around mid-90s. And he goes, if something happens to me and I fall over, my brother gets them and they'll be sold before I'm in the ground. And he goes, I can't let that happen. I can't let him leave the family. So he came to one of my fights, and as I walked out of the ring, they handed them to me. And so I had them all displayed in my basement gym. And then years later, I'm taking my dad up to Boston. We're going to a Red Sox game. And we didn't know what to wear. They weren't playing the Phillies. So we weren't going to wear any Philly gear, and we didn't want to wear any Boston gear. I said, let's get some Marciano shirts. That'd be really cool to wear up there. He's from Brockton. And I find one online. I have to make sure I get it in time. Call the guy. It's Rocky's nephew.
Wow, that's interesting.
So I run downstairs, start snapping photos of all this memorabilia I got. And we start talking, and he goes, you know, we're working on a Rocky statue, and we're going to unveil it. And the more and more we talked, he ended up inviting us. And we drove up to Brockton. We left at 3 a.m. Drove all the way up to Brockton. We saw Don King, and we saw, you know, Mickey Ward. You know, Vinny was there. Vinny Paz was there. Vito Antuofermo. A lot of good fighters were there. I got pictures with a lot of them. and then I turned all those into a music video.
Wow, that's cool,
Yeah.
man. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
so a lot of times I still talk about, Rocky, even though he, passed away 7 years before I was born. It's like, you want to be like that. It's something to look up to, especially you being an Italian American.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, you mentioned Mickey Ward multiple times. That was a really good movie that they. Well, I forget what it was called. but,
Warrior.
Fighter.
yeah, that was
Okay.
great. That was a great
So
movie.
that with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
Mark has played some great characters, and my one friend, she is like a diehard Mark Wahlberg fan. And of course, I'm going to prank her again because when I was working out tonight before I came on the show, the one song that came up on my playlist was Marky Mark "Good Vibrations."
Oh God, yeah, that's
So
taking it back, man.
I
Yeah.
convinced her a
Come on,
couple years
swing it.
ago.
They
I
played that.
convinced her a couple years ago that I did not know that Marky Mark was Mark Wahlberg.
Wow.
I said, man, I was listening to some music today. I said, you ever hear the song "Good Vibrations" by Marky Mark? She goes, yeah. She's like, yeah. I said, he was good. Whatever happened to him? He was talented. She goes, that's Mark Wahlberg. I said, who? Marky Mark. I said, no. Yeah. I said, no, it's not. And I convinced her that I didn't believe they were the same guy.
They actually played that today down at the link.
Really?
The unveiling of the green jerseys. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Believe it or not.
You know what else I did at work one time just because I was being me? I came in and I was listening to a song. I said, you know what song was great? They're like, what? I said, Parents Just Don't Understand.
Played that.
I said,
Oh yeah.
DJ Jazzy Jeff, the Fresh Prince. I said, man, the Fresh Prince, he was good. He fell off the face of the earth. This is before the smacking incident. I said, he fell off the face of the earth. They're like, that's Will Smith. So what about Will Smith? They said, that's the Fresh Prince. I said, no, I'm talking about the Fresh Prince of, DJ Jazzy Jeff. They're like, no, that's Will Smith.
Oh,
And I convinced them that I did not believe that was the same guy.
That's awesome.
My sixth sense of humor.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Mike, you'll appreciate this. So I'm at the game the other night. It's 1,000 degrees. I'm sweating. I'm hot. And there's a rain delay. And I'm standing there and I'm wearing this. And somebody says 4 words to me. Do you know what those 4 words were? I pity the fool.
Oh yeah.
Clubber Lang.
Yeah. Do I look like I
Southside Slugger.
Do I look like Clubber Lang?
The resemblance is striking. You look just like him.
Yes.
As Rocky said to Sage when he gave him Rocky Marciano's cufflink, he goes, well, remember, you always look like the daughter I always wanted.
I tell Mike all the time, it's like, you go to games and I meet people, and 99% of the people I get to meet are so nice and so polite, and I really enjoy it. Then you get the 1%. And I don't get many of them, but you'll have people like, I want to act like I'm punching you. Please don't.
Beer goggles.
Yeah, a guy tried to pull my hat off one time. That didn't turn out too well. Especially the Phillies had just lost 9-0, and we were getting bombarded with rain over at Xfinity. Yeah, that wasn't too good of a night. But people come up to me and they'll say, do you know who you look like? Now, obviously, I know my features do not look like Carl Weathers, but my outfit does. But I will then, if they're drunk, I will then try to rail off every Rocky character I can think of aside from Apollo.
Yeah.
I usually start with Spider Rico.
About Paulie, did you ever get that?
I have not gotten the Paulie one. I usually get the, you look like the guy from Rocky. I pity the fool. I've gotten that a couple times, and I'm like, you got the wrong character, buddy.
Jeez.
Has anybody famous ever come up to you, since you made an appearance in your Apollo Creed outfit?
Yes. Actually, this was down. I was going to a game probably almost 8 years ago now, because it would have been my 30. It was the day before my 39th birthday, so that would have been 2015. And they were having a Joe Frazier statue dedication, which is outside of Xfinity. So I went early to go to the statue dedication, and that was in my old outfit, the one I originally wore. And then I was going to the game, and guys were coming up to me, and one of the guys that came up to me for a photo was Michael Spinks.
That's right. You did mention.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Who else has come up to me that I consider famous? I wouldn't say anybody's really like they've come up to me, but I've gotten for like the other night with The Godfather, or a couple years ago with King Kong Bundy at the Reading.
Wow.
Um, like I said, I had dinner like a couple years ago with Dominic Brown. I was at the bakery last year. I was just around this time because my friend's birthday is in late July, and we were having a pool party. So I stop in to get some, stuff to bring over, some pastries, cannolis. And the owner, his daughter comes in like yelling at me. She goes, "They need you outside right now." I said, "Why? I didn't do anything." She goes, "Charlie's leaving. He just had lunch." I said, "Charlie? Charlie Manuel's there having lunch." I, f-
Oh,
I,
wow.
I felt underdressed. I felt like I was letting him down by not being suited up.
Wasn't there one time you met Charlie Manuel and somebody snapped a picture and he looked like he was pissed off? Like, I think just his expression, he wasn't
One time,
ready for the camera to be
this
snapped.
was I went to an autograph signing. Probably, I think it was right when they were about to clinch in 11. We went to the game Friday night. They lost. I was so mad, and then they clinched the next night when I'm not there. But I told my one friend this. I said, they were playing the Cardinals, and the magic number was 2. Braves lose. All you got to do is win. And I'm like, wow, I've never been to a division clinching game. I thought that'd be
Mhm.
really cool. And then whoever they brought in like the 9th inning or 10th inning just got lit up. And I was so mad. My friend's like, "Doesn't matter. They'll just clinch tomorrow." I said, "Yeah, and you know where we're going to be? At home. It doesn't matter." Well, the Cardinals got in by 1 game that year. And who put the Phillies home that season?
Yeah.
Cardinals. So I said that game maybe didn't just not matter.
Yeah, I remember thinking that too, because like we went into Atlanta and swept them, and like games didn't mean anything to us, and it allowed St. Louis to get in. And I remember being like, man, I don't know, I'm not gonna. Let's keep it real. I mean, we won 102 games that year, so I still thought we were going to win.
Yeah.
But the Cardinals did scare me because you know how baseball is, man. You get that hot team. I mean, look at the Phillies last
But
year.
I was going to say us last year.
It's scary. Especially in baseball, it's not always the best team. I mean, a lot of times it's the team that's playing the best at the right time.
Yeah. That was the 1 year with the Rockies. The Rockies won like I don't know how many consecutive games, and they swept us in the first round. And they literally 07. They almost swept all the way to the World Series, and then they got swept in the World Series
by Boston.
Yeah, by Boston.
Hey, that's how I feel like that's how sports is anymore, man. But hey, Tony, listen, man. I really appreciate you hopping on with us, dude.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I love the boxing talk because Sean will tell you, man. I mean, back in the day, I remember Sean being at my house. We used to get the Tyson fights.
Oh yeah.
I remember you mentioned Michael Moore, and that got me. Sean, I think you were at my house for this. Remember we saw.
Yeah, I was.
We saw Foreman. Moore was winning the whole fight, and Foreman won with that little shot.
If that fight went 10 rounds, Moore won 9 rounds and 1 minute and 45 seconds out of 9 rounds, 1 minute and 55 seconds. The only 10 seconds he didn't win was the count.
Yeah,
well, isn't that what's kind of amazing? I mean, especially really, particularly the heavyweight division. I mean, that there's always the puncher's chance, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's.
I mean, I can tell you times like that. I had fights and like I was getting beat, and then I brought that big left hook, Or there were times I remember watching a fight, and my dad will always tell this one. I had a fight one night, and before I get off, I'll tell you this one. I had a fight one night, and I had a bigger fight coming up. So this was almost like they considered it like not even an exhibition. So I went in there not really caring. My eyes were focused ahead. And this guy knew he was fighting me and my name meant something. So he came and he took it seriously and I didn't.
Okay.
And I was boxing with him and I was, whatever. And then the second round he caught me with a shot and I stumbled forward. And my gloves touched. They were giving a count. And then I was like, okay, whatever. I go back to the corner and I'm like, okay, now I'm a little mad. So now I'm getting out of my game. And I threw a wide left hook in the second round or third round, and he caught me with a right hand inside of it, and boom, and I went down on all fours. And my dad goes, "Do you remember what you did in the corner?" And I said, "Oh boy, this is about to be bad," but no. He goes, "Your coach looked over and he had the towel in his hand. And you basically, to do an Apollo Creed reference, don't you throw that towel, right? Except I threw a few expletives in there."
Right.
He goes, "Then you turned to the opposing coach, who I knew very well, who actually even worked my corner at another time. And he goes, you winked at him and you stuck your tongue out. And
Oh.
then you went out there and you blasted the guy with a left hook and pretty much put him out."
Just say, "Cut me, Mick."
Yeah. This
Get in
year,
there, Rock. Get in there.
this year,
You're a tomato can.
One more round, Tony. I got one more round.
I actually had a hard time suiting up in Clearwater this year. And I don't know, Mike, you might have seen the post I wrote when I was down there. Last year was such, you had two highs that ended up being really devastating lows.
Yeah.
And in such a short span. So, and I'm not going to talk about the Union in there because I didn't watch that and I wasn't into that. And, but, you had the Phillies put you on such a run. And when they went up 2-1, that night they bashed, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 home runs. I don't know what it was, but they bashed them and they're up 2-1. And I had this, real good feeling. And I was thinking about all the years that I did this. I started doing this in 2012.
Okay.
And when the Phillies were because that loss in 11 had really, I was working at a bad job and it had really, my life wasn't fun. And I said, I got to have fun again. And I developed this character. And even though the teams were bad in 12, 13, 14, especially 15, people were mocking me saying, why do you go to Clearwater? Why do you go to all the games and do all this? Because the team sucks. Why do you support them? They're not that good. And I'm like, because I'm a fan, for one. And second of all, I expect them to be good again one day. I don't know when, but I expect them to. And I wanted to go to that parade and take a picture and throw up the double middle fingers and send it to them all and say, I got my validation. And then I also, Mike knew him, one friend that used to work in McFadden's. He was a gentleman, used to work in the restroom, big heavy set guy. And he and I used to talk every game. And he goes, you know what, Ron? And Ron goes, you know what? It's like, it's a shame they're so bad right now. Because he goes, it's hurting me on my tips because this place is dead. And I said, Ron, they're going to turn around. They're going to be good. Hopefully soon. They're going to be good. And I said, when they're champions again, you and I come in here together, we lift up a shot and we toast the champions. He passed away that year. And I kept thinking about him when they were up 2-1. And I kept saying, Ron, I will honor that promise. And my first championship shot is to you. And then they didn't win. Right after that letdown, which was like November 4th or 5th, a week later, I'm doing the Rocky run. And I get to myself so hyped for it. So I do the Rocky run. The following week, I start my Christmas tree work. So I'm doing like 6 weeks at 40 hours a week. And I'm really working. As soon as that ends, you go right into that Eagles run.
Yeah.
And then that night they lost. It was like my whole body had nothing left. I mean, you can see the road sign about right outside of my house has a dent in it from my left hand on that referee that made that horrible call in that horrible field. And when that was over, my body had nothing left. And I said, you got 6 weeks before or not even, you got 5 weeks before you're in Clearwater. Are you ready to be that guy again?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know. And I got down to Clearwater and I packed everything up. And I took it out that morning, went to the gym that morning, got up, and I laid the whole outfit out. And I said, are you ready to be that guy again? And I said, I don't know. I was talking to my mirror, the mirror of reflection. I said, I don't know. It reminded me when I was 21 years old, I was fighting up in New York. I was fighting a guy from Air Force. And I know I beat him. He got the decision. And I had a fight coming up 2 months later. Well, I took a few weeks off. And then I was training, but it was like that Rocky III half-hearted train when, before you got to talk on the beach. But I was in shape. And I was suited up that night. I got my hands taped up. I walked to the ring. And I didn't have it mentally there yet. So that guy from Navy punched me in the mouth. And he woke me up. And he woke up the sleeping giant. And he took a beating for it. Nice. And when I put that outfit on this year, I put it on piece by piece, the wristbands, the earring, the shirt, the tassels, the shorts, everything. And I looked in the mirror and I felt like I was playing dress up. I felt like it wasn't him.
Right.
And I said, "Are you ready?" And I sat in that room, and I said, "All right, let's go. The time's up. You got to walk out of the dressing room now. Time's up. Go." And I walked down a real long hallway to the elevator. I got on the elevator by myself, and I went down a couple floors, and I got off. Those 40 Phillies fans in that lobby, and they cheered. And I
There
said,
you go.
I remember that. And the first guy came up, he says, "Yo, photo op," and I went from to this. And
Yeah.
he just got hit in the mouth, and he's back.
Yeah, hey, let's be real, man. In Philly, we've had some successes in this town, but we've had a lot of close calls and a lot of failures. I mean, I can remember, I still have visions of Rondé Barber down one sideline and Joe Jervis
That's the worst one, man.
down the other.
Oh, man.
And
Carter,
I'm
Carter.
Yeah, but so I'm saying I'm doing a so in a few weeks we're doing a an old school, because I do an old school show, right? And we're doing the '93 Phillies, and that's like that was like my favorite team ever, right? So we're doing an old school in the '93 Phillies, and it's like, so think about that. I mean, I still can see that ball going over,
So can I.
But the thing that makes Philadelphia sports fans so great is and passionate is exactly what you said. Like, for all the losses, it makes the victories that much sweeter.
It shows that we can get up.
Yeah,
we can get knocked down. We've gotten up, and I'll send it to you guys. When they won, and when the Phillies won in 2008, with the job I was at the time, we kind of knew that we were not going to be there much longer. Like, the work was, not coming in. So they would just say to us, just come in every day and we have stuff for you to do. You do it. And so I said, man, I started thinking about all the disappointments in my life.
Yeah.
So I said, I was 4 years old when they had that, the 1980 Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They actually mentioned that in that KYW article a few weeks ago. The picture of me at the sign that was in front of my house before my dad cut it down. I thought of that. I thought of '93. I thought of the Fog Bowl. I thought of the 5 straight NFC East champion years.
Yeah.
I thought of all of them. And I said, you know what? When I watched Brad Lidge throw that last pitch, I remember, and I can still think my exact thought. I saw Hinsky swing, and I said, did he just swing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he just miss? Yeah. Did we hold on to the ball? And I'm like, oh my God, that means it's over.
And just him gracing up like this, man. I was like, wow.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because in when we won the Super Bowl in 2017, I remember. You remember the Hail Mary? Well, I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack, because I thought Gronkowski was gonna catch it on the right.
That's what I thought. I was waiting for a flag, because we all stood there and it was like time stopped. Like, is it over? That's what I'm yelling.
And then you see, like, the people starting running, and I'm like, wait, don't run yet. Don't put your hands up yet. Are you sure?
It was one of those things, because being from Philly, you're waiting for that shoe to drop. Like said, you're like, all right, where's the flag? Did he catch the damn ball? You know what I mean? It's
like not, everybody's standing around waiting for the call.
Even this year, I was mad during the Super Bowl. It was halftime, and I can't sit still, and I can't watch a halftime show. So there's a trail outside of my house. It's about half a mile down to the stop sign. I power walked it down there, and I got back, and I said, let me go again, and as I'm walking down there, and I'm bundle of nerves and energy, I hear fireworks going off. I'm like, it's halftime. Shut up.
Total violation, jinx.
Thank you.
Whoever that is,
man.
Whoever that is deserves a Tony Tornado left hook. You know what I'm saying?
You.
Like, dude,
because if I could find him,
they need race with it. You don't do that. That's like the biggest jinx.
I'm even watching the game. Like, now, the only guy I would never tell. Well, I don't say it to Kruk that much, but I would never say it to Harry Callis. But every other announcer, they say something and shut up.
I know.
So-and-so. He's 0 for 4 against whatever. Shut up.
It's like the free throws where the guy, without fail, like somebody goes, oh, he's made about 60 foul shots. Or it could even be Steph Curry, who never misses. And they say that, and he bricks, know?
Yep. I am super, superstitious like that. Well, to the point was like when I used to fight, it's like, what put that right glove down. Left glove goes on first. I have one trainer. He's like, give me your hand. I'm like, no, I will not put the right glove on first. It's wrong.
So you always had to put the southpaw. No.
And the thing is, it's funny. I always go non-dominant, so I go left hand first and right foot first.
Okay.
Some athletes have superstition that
Yeah.
they got their pregame ritual.
Yeah.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, like they said.
Exactly.
So I don't want to hear nothing from that. I'm a firm believer of that. So.
Well, my friend just hooked me up with private access to the Eagles practice on August 10th.
Oh, cool.
She has season tickets to her business, so they're like box seats. So every year they'll email them like, "Yo, here's your whatever." She's like, "I'm not going down." So send it over to me. I'm like, "I'm going down."
Hey, speaking of the Eagles, do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah.
All right.
For the Eagles, absolutely.
All right, just hang on. I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors real quick. Yeah. All right. So, you had mentioned the one guy that was drunk that was thinking about hitting you, and then like, I'll tell you, you would have been well within your rights to give him a left hook. Well, anybody out there that might have a personal injury, okay, because that would be a personal injury. If you need a lawyer, call my man Jason Fine, aka Attorney Big Al. He's got motor vehicle accidents, slip and fall, workers' compensation, and like I said, personal injuries. So you get a little. Tony Tornado's a nice guy, and he's not going to hit you. But hey, have a couple, you might have a personal injury here. So you got. Yeah, I know, right? So you got 3 office locations: Absolutely. Philadelphia, PA, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, or Pittsburgh, PA. Anybody out there that's a coffee drinker, say you're out there, you're going to all these games, you go down the Clearwater, you get banged up a little bit, maybe you got to recover. Well, I'll tell you, the best coffee around is Monkey's Cult Coffee. You could use the promo code OOTBS Sports at monkeycultcoffee.com at the checkout. Not only they have great coffee, but it's great guy. 10% of each sale goes to the National Pediatric Foundation at nationalpcf.org. So make sure you show those guys some love. Got one more here. My man Ken Fry, he's the host of the Bat Cave. This is near and dear to his heart. Girls traveling softball here, they need some donations. You got to help Ken out because my man, great dude, but he's not doing too well because the Mets kind of blow. You know what I'm saying? So help his daughter out, okay? I got one more here. Fuji, why don't you take this one away, bro?
Well, the best in the business, Vince Rizzuto, Philly Sports Trips. Actually, they got that San Diego trip coming out. They just had that Pirates trip that was sold out this past weekend. Hey, Washington trips booking up 6, 7 buses. Same with the Jets trip going up. Everybody will be down there. E-Rock. 4th and John, we're going. You name it. You got all these Eagles trips. Vince, Bob Cavanaugh, Cavs Catering, the best in the business. Go right now to phillysportstrips.com. Book the trip you want to go on. It'll be up in New England in a couple weeks. Actually, I think they got a union trip going up to Boston. Or next year they're going out to the Phillies are over playing in London. I know that. I believe that's the beginning of June next year against the Mets. So go to Philly Sports Trips. Check it out. Like I said, Vince, the best in the business. Vince Rizzuto will take care of you. Once you go with Philly Sports Trips, you'll never want to go on another trip again. So for all your Philly Sports Trips needs, all your road trips, go with Philly Sports Trips. You can't go wrong. And as I said, once you go with Vince and the guys, you'll never look again.
That's right. And we'll be going to that Washington one. So, have a few with us. And I got one more here, actually. As I mentioned before, the old school show, take a ride in the DeLorean. You know what I mean? Relive some old school memories. A few weeks back, obviously we're all Philadelphia sports fans here, but a few weeks back, me and my man Ken Fry, we did the 1980s New York Mets particularly the '86 team. And like I said, even as a Philadelphia fan, I had to give them some respect. They were a great story, a great team, and I had to hold my nose a little bit while doing it because, like I said, I am a Phillies fan. But it was a really interesting show, and make sure you check us out in a couple weeks. We have to firm the date. But we're going to break down the '93 team, and those guys definitely deserve the championship. And even though they didn't win a championship, they had a lot of great memories. So,
oh yeah, that was a fun team.
That was a great team. But speaking of another great team, and I know my man Fuji rocking the new Kelly, the new Kelly green here. What's your guys? I mean, how exciting is it to have a team? That's looks like they're the class of the NFC. I mean, Tony, I'll ask you, like, I know it's really hard to go back to a Super Bowl, especially when you lose. But and let's keep it real. As much as I hate to say it, I think the Cowboys. It makes me hard to say, but I think the Cowboys are going to be a real legit competitor. But what's your outlook on this year?
Well, you are going to have some tough teams in the NFC, namely the Cowboys. I think the Giants are an improving team, and then you have the Niners right now. I mean, the Niners, that was almost an even bet going into last year's NFC Championship.
The Winers.
Yeah, the 49ers. And they should not complain so much the fact that you decided to try and block an all-pro defensive edge rusher with a backup tight end.
True.
Your injury was your own fault.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
who tries
the
to
thing that gets me.
block Hassan Reddick with whatever the guy's name was? It wasn't George Kittle. I know that.
No.
And the guy got bowled over.
He got blasted. I mean, just think it's hilarious. Like I say to Joey and Fuji, that you just keep on bringing up the past. The past is in the past. Come week 13, you better bring your lunch because we're going to whip your ass.
Do you remember 2019, the Eagles scraped to get into the playoffs?
Yeah.
And Wentz went, one series, and he got tackled on the ground, concussion?
Yeah. Clowney hit him.
Yeah, Clowney.
Yeah.
Then we put in our backup, who was playing on a torn hamstring.
McCown.
Right.
Yeah.
Josh
McCown. And he was playing on a torn hamstring. And we didn't have a third person to put in. You know what? We lost that game. But did we ever complain about it?
We didn't cry about it. We took that out. We took that out like men. I mean, hey, it is what it is. And it's and it's funny you mentioned that because you mentioned Carson Wentz. And isn't it amazing? He still doesn't have a job. Like,
I know.
I know. I mean, it's. Yeah. I'm wondering if he. I mean, I still think somebody like if there's a quarterback injury, I think somebody brings him in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
They will.
They have to.
He's not going to stay unemployed that long.
I was thinking of a team like either Green Bay to back up Jordan Love, who's unproven.
Okay.
Or even I wouldn't be surprised to see Dallas try to scoop him up.
There was a rumor a couple months.
Yeah, I heard those are the two teams that I heard.
In Dallas, but
yeah, I heard those two teams, Green Bay and Dallas. With the Eagles this year, I mean, I thought they crushed the draft. 2 years in a row, crushed the draft. I mean, you got a talent last year like Nakobe Dean in the third round. Jordan Davis looks like he's coming in tremendous shape this year.
Yeah,
you got your Philly dogs, your Philly Bulldogs. Jalen Carter, and you hate to put so much hype on a player that's hasn't played a professional down yet, because you've seen guys that were top 5 picks that busted terrible, that never that were out of the league in 2 years. John Harris shouldn't have been a first round pick. He should have been a 4th round pick. But you have guys that were like can't miss prospects that miss. But when I watched Jalen Carter at Georgia, the two guys that I kept seeing were Jerome Brown and Warren Sapp.
Yeah.
Those are the two I kept seeing. And they said, okay, right now you don't have the pads on, but they said every day he does a wow play in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to put a rotation out there up front, and you're going to put guys. Now, granted, you got to stay healthy, but you're going to put, as Andy Reid used to say, you're throwing fastballs. You're throwing a guy like, Jordan Davis out there that's just going to overwhelm and just going to eat space. And then he's going to allow guys to, like Jalen Carter, to wreck games. You still got Fletcher out there. You can spell him where he doesn't have to play as many snaps, and he can come in fresh. You got guys like Reddick that's going to, mentor a guy like Nolan Smith. So you're throwing 2 fastballs out there. You still got Brandon Graham where he doesn't have to play as much. He played like a third of the normal snaps last year, and he broke
his double-digit sacks.
The most sacks in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because he was fresh, and he could come out there and just go out there and just go 110 miles an hour. So now Nakobe Dean's going to start, and I think he's going to be almost an up. Not saying anything bad about Kazir White or TJ Edwards, but I think Nakobe Dean, with a year under his belt, is going to be an upgraded linebacker.
I see him as our Sam Mills. He's so undersized, like people say. But you look at Sam Mills back in the day, Hall of Famer, a short tackler, and Nakobe Dean's tape speaks for itself.
Wasn't London Fletcher another guy like that?
Yeah, undersized.
Yeah. And actually, I'm not worried as much about our safeties at all, because you got like a guy like Terrell Edmonds back there, and I think Sidney Brown. Blankenship, with a year under his belt. Sidney Brown, they got in the 3rd round. So I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic on their defensive side of the ball. With the biggest addition is by subtraction, and that's Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I never, I know numbers wise they had a great year defensively, but if and it showed in the Super Bowl. And the last 2 years in particular, I mean, the defense was great against mediocre quarterbacks. As soon as that defense played a good quarterback, Jonathan Gannon got picked. The defense got picked apart.
He didn't know how to,
he didn't know how to make adjustments. And the other thing he did, and if anybody ever watched a game with me, there is a few words that I would always say. I hate a soft zone.
Oh yeah.
When it's 3rd and 7 and you're lining up 9 yards off the receivers, you're giving them a first down.
I just was going to say that. It's like, okay, here we are.
Yeah.
Take it.
I used to hate Jim Schwartz when he did the sticks defense.
Yeah.
It's like 3rd and 15 and we're going to line 14 yards back.
Bend, don't break.
Yeah.
Don't bend, rather.
I could see last year, especially during that Super Bowl, or even that Dallas game when 3rd and 30 and he gives up a 43-yard play, and I'm like, I could see right now Jim Johnson and Buddy Ryan like rolling over in their graves.
Yeah. You know what's funny? You just touched on it. The only difference right now between Jonathan Gannon and Jim Schwartz is Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, if Brandon Graham doesn't make that play, the Eagles probably lose that Super Bowl, and we're feeling the exact same way about Jim Schwartz as we do Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, because Brady was picking that defense apart. I mean,
for like 500 yards. I mean,
505 yards.
They threw the most yards. Yeah.
The most yards in Super Bowl history.
The only plays that defense made, aside from the sack fumble, was the one where Rodney McLeod powerbombed the one guy that tried to pole vault him.
Knocked him out of the game.
Malcolm Jenkins knocking out Brandon Cook.
Yeah.
And
that set the tone right there.
And McLeod, when the guy tried to jump up and he caught him and he gave him like the Kevin Nash powerbomb.
Yeah.
Those are the only 3 plays that defense made the whole game.
Like, took the wind out of their sails. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one where Tom Brady dropped his own pass.
Oh yeah, that was the best part too, because they actually did the Philly special before the Eagles did. That play was in the second, and then the Eagles, and then Nick Foles BDN was like, yo boss, let me show you how this is done. You know what I mean?
The rest is history, man.
I always joke the one, because I used to go up to training camp at Lehigh every year. I used to love Lehigh, love it, because if, like, say you were going up, tomorrow, say you take a day off of work, you're going up tomorrow, and it pours rain, it gets canceled, you'd be like, okay, I'll just go back Saturday. You don't have that advantage anymore. I was there in 2012, which was their last year at Lehigh, and Randy Reed's last year. And I just happened to snap a photo. Nick Foles had walked over to sign autographs. And I just snapped a photo of him from like 5 feet away. And I posted every so often. Now I'm like, got this picture of this unknown rookie in 2012. I wonder if he ever did anything in Philadelphia.
Yeah, as I mean, you know what's funny about Nick Foles? It's funny because like, Nick Foles, like I remember like he was what was he, a third round? I think he was third round pick.
Third round pick.
He had that great first year in 2013, but I remember a game in 2012 where they were playing Tampa Bay and the Eagles sucked.
And came back and they won.
Right, but I remember
the losing streak.
I remember telling my wife at the time, my ex-wife now, but like, and telling her, like, she's like, "Oh, how was the game?" And I said, there's something about this Nick Foles kid. I said he has an it factor, and isn't it amazing? I mean, now, I'm not going to lie, I didn't think he was going to be Super Bowl MVP. I mean, let's keep it real. I'm not exactly Nostradamus, but he did have an it factor. You could see it from a young age.
And like I said, he had that year in 13, and he was amazing. And then he started off in 14, and he didn't have as much magic. But I think a lot of it was, what Chip Kelly was doing. And if you look back at 14, I forget if they had lost Jason Peters that year. They lost somebody on their offensive line, and he wasn't able to step into his passes because he was throwing off his back foot a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember the next year, I forget if I was at work or someone's like, the Eagles traded Nick Foles. I'm like, the Eagles did what? Like, they traded Nick Foles for Sam Bradford. I'm like, what? And a second round pick. And I'm like, oh, so we're getting Bradford and a second round pick? They're like, no, we're giving Foles and a second round pick for Bradford. I'm like, why?
I know.
I know Chip always wanted like that, like mobile type of quarterback. So he goes out and gets a quarterback less mobile on 2 torn ACLs than Foles was.
I hear you. Well, listen, we're gonna get ready. We're gonna get ready to wrap up. But before we do, I know it's early, but how about we do some? You want to, since we're talking Eagle, you want to just do a quick season prediction? What's our
absolutely?
All right, let's just go around the let's go.
Around the horn.
I was gonna say a way early season prediction. Sean, what do you think, bro?
I'm gonna
put them on the table, bro.
13-4.
Okay, and they win the East.
Yeah, man.
Okay, all right, Fuge, what you think, bro?
12-5.
All right, now is that first place?
Yeah, Division 1.
Okay.
NFC East.
All right,
how about advantage?
How about this? We getting back to the bowl? We having a rematch with Mahomes or what?
Bowl or bust.
Okay. All right.
Provide bar an injury.
Yeah.
Well, that's
and everybody's gunning for us.
Yeah. Hey, that's
true. We don't care.
That's right.
We're from Philly. Blank Philly.
How about you, Tony? Am I going to be seeing you in Vegas? Are you going to be out in Vegas during the Super Bowl celebrating with these cats, or what?
I would love to. I'm going to go with Sean. I'm going to go 13-4. I think, and I'm definitely winning the East. If they don't get the number 1 seed, they're going to get the number 2 seed. But you got to go for that number 1 now because you only got 1 bye, and being healthy and being fresh late in the year is so important. So 13-4, and I think they do get the number 1 seed on the tiebreaker. And you're right, just like Mike said, bowl or bust. And I don't care if it's Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Tua Tagovailoa. I don't care. Or Mac Jones. I don't care.
Me watching that quarterback, I want Mahomes again.
Yeah.
I want to put his head in the ground.
I want Hurts to stick it right up. You know
what's funny though, and like it's because that quarterback show is so great, right? And
I haven't seen it yet.
All right, you got it. Well, when you see it, let me know because there's so much of me that wants to hate Mahomes and hate the Chiefs for losing to them, and I got to keep it real, man. Mahomes is likable as shit, bro.
Oh yeah, he is.
Dude's a fucking warrior, man. He's
the thing that kills me is. I'm not taking nothing away from Mahomes, but Hurts should have been the MVP, and it's just, you know what? I don't want to really keep a lot of time on. I know we all want to get out of here, but my thing is Buffalo and Cincinnati. NFL never made that game up. Now, how the hell did Kansas City get the #1 seed. To me, it was like Goodell and all those jokers up in the front office of the NFL just gave it to him. And it still, like, makes me scratch my head about it.
Yeah. I hear you, bro.
I mean, you're talking about AFC #1 supremacy in the AFC, and it's like Cincinnati and Buffalo just got shafted. Like, they wanted Mahomes in the bowl.
Yeah.
You know, Goodell has his head up Mahomes' ass anyway, which still irks me and fires me up right now just thinking about it.
You know what? I respect Patrick Mahomes. I like Patrick Mahomes, but every time I see his brother, I want to throat punch him.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, he is annoying.
Track him down and give him a beatdown. Give him a Philly Street beatdown. That's all.
That'd be fun.
Just don't give him Jason Fine's number because you don't want him to get any coin out of you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Anybody with a name Jackson deserves the ass whipping.
So I'm going 13-4. We win the East again, and I'm putting my balls on the table. I'm saying we're winning the Super Bowl.
Nice.
I'll probably eat some crow, but you know if they don't, whatever.
Man, roll with it. Go with your gut.
Yeah. But all right, hey, listen, guys, it's been. Oh, one more thing, Phillies Marlins series. I say
they were down 2-0.
We're down 2-0.
Yes, we are.
Shit. All right. Well, anyway,
we got one man on. Marsh is up now, top of the 4th.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up and start watching and start doing some suffering here. So
yeah.
All right. It's been real, Tony. Thanks again for hopping on. Thank you once again to Frank Klose. Hopefully the Phillies make a good move because it looks like with the way they're playing right now, they got to add something.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully for a good week. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good one.